now that you started kind of releasing shit, right? I don't know if people know, but you were signed to a record label.
I was signed to something called Relax Records.
Relax Records.
That was prior to me being signed to Interscope.
Okay. So Relax Records, what was that now?
So fast forward from all the lyrical rapping into a whole bunch of shit. I wound up signing to this thing called Relax Records, which was kind of like a group formed out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, led by this guy named Jay Stash. He just put together kind of like a group of his like friends or something. And I was making a bunch of beats for them at the time. And instead of leasing beats from me or buying these beats, because it was like consistent, like I was giving them beats all the time. After like they had one song that blew up, he was just like, "Yo, just join the team." Signed me for like 2 years. I remember being like real excited about it because I was just like, "Man, this is just gonna be such a game changer for me," because now I'm like signed technically. I didn't like get an advance or had any budget or anything, but it was a platform for sure.
Right,
and I pretty much owe a lot, the majority of my my earlier career to that moment.
Okay.
Because Twitter and SoundCloud back then, you could repost things. Jay Stash had a huge Twitter following. He had a huge SoundCloud following, and he would repost a song that I would drop. And it would take off, and what started happening was I became the most streamed or played guy in the group. I dropped a song called Bracken, which was a very controversial song at the time. Really stirred up the hate from hometown people. Like, and another thing too about the hate is like the hate was only ever like hometown people that like personally knew me. Like I never went online and people were like hating on me. Like it never really was like, and if it did, it was just so, it was so irrelevant to me that I just like, I never cared about that. But yeah, it was always just like hometown shit.
Okay.
And I dropped Bracken, got a lot of love. I went down to Fort Lauderdale and shot a video to it. And that was pretty much it. I started becoming like the most popular artist in the group, and I started really.
But so did you say that you were sending them beats? That's how they found out about you?
Yeah, I was producing beats and putting them on YouTube.
Okay, wow.
I was making like a lot of Drake type beats.
Okay.
Like Houston sound type beats where I was sampling stuff and making like Florida down south type of shit.
Okay.
And that's how they found me, because I was like doing like the style of my beats was like down south type or something like that. So
it was like them searching on YouTube and
just found it out of the blue. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were producing.
I was producing. That's the class in high school where I first started recording my music, because I would first started recording my music in a studio in high school.
Okay.
My high school had a studio. Yeah. The class. The goal behind the class was to teach the students how to make beats on Logic.
Really?
So that was like
Imagine that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was the basis of the class. So I would come in and the class itself, it was a period. It was like third period,
40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, and they would teach. Mr. Schaefer was his name. Shout out to Mr. Schaefer, real legend for me. Taught me how to just like make a loop, make a quantize, stuff like that, and then. That's how I kind of got the foundation down. Okay. And then I was able to, that gave me the ability to start figuring it out on my own. But so I started making beats, and that's what they found my beats.
So when they found your beats, though, and they reached out to you, how did you transition into saying, like, I'm also an artist? I'm not just making beats here. I'm an artist.
That's a good question. Yeah. I think, well, this is what happened. So I think he knew I was putting out music because, I probably just immediately advertised it, that I was like, yo, I'm also making music too. And what wound up happening was very Lil Wayne and Drake-ish, like Jay Stash wound up coming over to my house like after the first couple months I signed, and I had like 6 or 7 songs on a mixtape that I released. A mixtape called Swag Blueprint was the mixtape. Classic mixtape. I produced all the beats and everything, and
that's still out though. Can we still?
Yeah, it's still out. You could find it on like Dat Piff and stuff. Is what I was dropping it on, like Dat Piff, Hot New Hip Hop. So he came over to my house and he stayed the night and like recorded a verse. And he was like a big artist in the sense of like, you know, bigger than anything locally close to me, you know. And he recorded a verse on like 6-7 songs, like remixed them. And I was like, you know, all right, man, like now I got like 7 songs with Jay Stess. Like I'm gonna blow up. Like this is it. So he started to recognize that I was taking the music serious, because I just always was that kid that just had like 30 songs ready to go, and they were all just like vibes. And you know, I was like engineering for him too, and I was just like kind of being like utilized for all situations, beats, features, engineering, you know, whatever they kind of needed me to do. And I think he in a way respected that I was just kind of like down to put in the groundwork and just you know, be a soldier at the time. So yeah, I think that's what kind of earned my ability to drop mixtapes and do whatever I wanted while I was under him.
Okay. So he was open to it, cuz like I mean, have you seen like the Kanye documentary? You know, he was but he was a producer, and you know, it was he had a hard time going into the artist part of things. So, and even like some of these other guys, like I mean, you know, Pierre Bourne, he's a producer, he's also an artist, like they're not getting the recognition.
Well, I think Kanye's a producer first, as close. He's as close as possible to being like, which one is he? I think he's a producer first. I think, right? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I think he's a producer first. He's without a doubt one of the top 3, I think, rappers. I would say top 3 rappers. I would put, you know, Drake, Lil Wayne, and Kanye will probably be my top 3. But he's a producer first. I'm an artist. I'm not a producer. Okay. So it was never a transition period or anything that I had to try to figure out. Like I was always like, I'm an artist. I like making beats because I can't get any beats, and I also have a great ear. Okay. Right. And since I have a great ear, I can make a great beat because I know what I want. Yeah. I know what I want to hear. Okay. And I know what artists like. Simple, you know, that's kind of my whole theme was always simple, quick, easy, here you go. You know, that was always like my whole brand, was just to be simple. So no, but I never had a transitioning period or try to figure out, you know, what am I going to do? I just used the beats to my advantage to not have to worry about dealing with producers at the time to like get beats, because I didn't have any friends that were doing music. It was just me. So I was like, okay, well, I got to do everything.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. So about how long after that did Interscope come?
That was about probably 4 or 5 years of just feeding off of that fan base that I got from Jay Stash. Right. SoundCloud fan base, Twitter fan base, couple moments here and there with music.
Where was that fan base? Yeah, where?
You know, the fan base was actually like, you know, the ironic part about the whole thing is that it was actually never a fan base that I think I set out to get. It was like more of like a drug, you know, Papa Zan, fucking, you know, that type of vibe. Okay. At that time, it was very, very, you know, Juice WRLD, you know, XXX, you know, that type of crowd at that time, you know, because I was kind of making similar music to that, you know, like I was kind of talking about doing lean, you know, drinking lean and all that type of stuff. So like that, it was like ultimately that fan base, which I don't think my music caters to anymore. But it was like down south, California. It definitely wasn't, it wasn't here yet. It wasn't like, you know, northeast yet. Like it wasn't this whole area. Okay. It was very, you know, Florida, Texas. The first show I ever did where I traveled, I did a show in El Paso, in like 2015. Just flew down there by myself. Very, very sketchy. El Paso's very, very sketchy. It's right on the border. Yeah. It's just like was just very scary. And I'm just by myself. And it was just like, you know, that was just what I was on. Just like, fuck it. I'm getting on the flight. I'm going. And I was just like a one-man band at the time, you know? And that's what I always say to people. It's just like, you know, you really want to do it and you want to like really be outside and make things happen for yourself. Like you got to be willing to just do the most by yourself first, because it's like you can't just expect people to jump on the bandwagon when they don't really know what your vision is or what your plan is. So I was just always doing shit by myself. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and you know, it worked out in my favor. But that's ultimately why, is because I had the ability to do everything I wanted to by myself. I didn't have to rely on anybody, so I could keep the show moving all the time. Yeah. You know, so
and doing the shit, like traveling by yourself and doing everything, like that just kind of shows you like when there is people, like they're not almost like distract you in a way because you know like what you're doing. You know?
Yeah. Without a, it became I valued as I progressed in my career having people with me, having my friends with me, because I felt like the big bro enough to, when we were moving, I was used to it, and it's like I was able to use it for what it was, because when you're doing things music related, when you're flying somewhere or you're doing a show, the people around you are there to help and to contribute in some sense. And you got to learn, just like if you were an employer of a company, you need to learn how to utilize the people around you to be the most beneficial and to, use the resource. Everybody's got to be a resource. So I was able to know what I needed as I got older. The problem with that was a lot of people that were riding along with me weren't looked at as looking like they were supposed to be getting utilized. They were more like, we're having a good time, we're hanging out, which that's fine. And they shouldn't have any expectations, but I was just like, I need the help now. And a lot of people, I think, kind of just wanted to have fun, but it is what it is.